Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our last Brighton Immersive Meetup of the year. Uh, I know I'm not the only one who's hoping that 2021 may start a little bit better than 2020 did, but meanwhile, let's try and end this year with a bit of a bang. My name is Chris Chowan, and I am the Emerging Technologies Coordinator here at Wired Sussex. We are a membership organisation designed to support digital and tech businesses in the Sussex region. We organise events like this, but also a variety of different meetups and breakfast sessions to help our members share experiences and expertise with each other. We also host the Wired Sussex Jobs site, which is pretty much the place to go if you're looking for a career in tech. We run and operate out of our innovation hub, the FuseBox. Many of the attendees tonight, and indeed some of the speakers, will be residents of the FuseBox. So if you're interested in learning more about how we specifically support businesses working with virtual and augmented reality, but also 5G, artificial intelligence, and data and big data, be sure to reach out to me at chris@wiredsussex.com or just visit our website, thefuseboxbrighton.com. Now, just to get back on track, thank you so much for joining us tonight to see a fantastic lineup of talks from our very excellent speakers. Joining us tonight, we have Mish Maudsley from Mishfit and Peter Nierowitz from Munching Square, as well as Sam Watts from Make Real. Tonight, with these fantastic speakers, we will be looking to see how immersive experiences can and are increasingly being used to deliver, increasingly being delivered through the use of web browser technologies such as WebXR. Incidentally, for me personally, this is a topic that I've been really wanting to get to for quite some time. The sort of phase of being able to access immersive experiences on the go without any installation or downloads required. The accessibility of that, be it for augmented realities in little hologram business cards that you can show, or in virtual reality, like many of our attendees right now are experiencing the Brighton Immersive Meetup in VR through a browser-based platform. So it's a really exciting field, and I think it's going to only grow massively over the next few years, and maybe towards an appless future. You never know. So hopefully you're going to really enjoy the talks tonight. Now, just a little bit of housekeeping for those in VR. So attendees of our recent meetups will be familiar that we're doing this a little bit differently in the light of these meetups going viral. Going viral? No, going virtual. As you may have noticed on Eventbrite, there are two options for joining tonight's event. We are live on our YouTube channel right now, and if you're just looking to watch the talks, that's probably the best way to experience it. If you just want to sit back, maybe a glass of wine, and watch the talks go on. However, if you'd like to join us as a virtual avatar in Mozilla Hubs and actually watch and chat and network along with other attendees, in a virtual version of the FuseBox, I should add. My colleague Anna will hopefully be posting a link in the YouTube chat shortly so you can get across as well. For those of you joining us in Mozilla Hubs, we are expecting quite a few people to be checking in virtually, so we have had to split the event into two rooms. Your reminder email from Eventbrite should contain a link with an alternate room if there's no space available. Lastly, although networking and discussion is encouraged, please be respectful of the other attendees trying to follow along with the talks. If you are in Mozilla Hubs and would like to continue the conversation after the event, there's a portal on the wall at the back of the room, so directly away from the screen, which will take you into the wider FuseBox area. So you can click on that portal and it will take you to a separate area where you can then have as many conversations as you like without disruption. Now, I'd like to get the ball rolling, so I'd like to introduce our first speaker. I'd like to introduce Mish Maudsley from Mishfit. She's actually an artist who is going to be explaining how she's managed to update and exhibit her work virtually through the use of a virtual browser-based art gallery. So over to you, Mish.
Good evening. My name's Mish Maudsley, also known as Mishfit, and I'm a Brighton-based contemporary urban artist. I recently put on my own virtual exhibition of my latest collection of works called Wild Skies, and I've been asked on this evening by the lovely people at FuseBox to share my experience of working with the virtual platform, the pros, the cons, and the things I learnt. So before we get into that, I'll just give you a little bit of background on myself as an artist. I work in multiple approaches. I work with large-scale murals in spray paint. Typically, my subjects are kind of feisty women with very, very vibrant, colourful backgrounds, quite uplifting and empowering work. You may have seen some of my pieces around Brighton. And I also work in the studio on smaller works on paper and canvases for private commissions and galleries. Now, I had a collection of work growing, and my plan was for this year, 2020, was to hit the art fairs and try and get into galleries. And I had it all laid out, all arranged. And then suddenly the world got cancelled. So this was obviously a massive shock to everybody, but it hit multiple industries in different ways, and it really, really hit the art world very, very hard. Summer is typically, art fair time, and this is a multi-billion-pound industry globally, and suddenly all these art fairs across the globe were cancelled. And obviously the galleries were hugely affected as well. So as an industry as a whole, people were scrambling for ideas, solutions. What the hell do you do when suddenly the way of communicating your product has disappeared? And for artists themselves as well, so much work goes into organising your work for art fairs, for gallery shows, and suddenly all that is whisked away from you. So yeah, everyone was in a bit of a tailspin, but this did kind of present an opportunity of doing an exhibition in a slightly different way. So I started doing some research. I will just say I had absolutely no experience whatsoever with any kind of virtual platform, but I am also a digital designer, so I feel fairly literate in the digital world, and I figured, come on, it can't be that hard, right? So I just did some research and suddenly discovered there were actually all these virtual platforms out there ready to go in surprisingly quite affordable terms as well. Monthly subscriptions, and you just pay for what you use, and then you can cancel your subscription at the end of it. So this actually seemed like an incredibly viable option. So I decided that instead of trying to do a physical show or a physical art fair, I would in fact do a virtual exhibition. And once I'd got my head around that, then everything just kind of fell into place really nicely. And this is a little thumbnail of what the space ended up looking like. So I'll delve into the actual mechanics of the platform I ended up using, which is called Kunstmatrix, so art in German, kunstmatrix.com. And I will just nip over to show you what the actual exhibition ended up looking like. So incredibly accessible. Once you've created it, you can embed it on your website. So I'll show you around the front end, and then I'll just show you the back end as well. So it's embedded on a page on my actual website, so the user can just come in here and, as you would in a normal gallery, just navigate your way around the space. You can click in to each of the artworks and read more information. You can click through to the gallery to actually buy the piece. And the beautiful thing is the customer can just guide themselves around the space as you would in a genuine gallery. So this is an incredibly powerful tool, which was really set up without too much effort, surprisingly. So I was just really blown away by the ease of how someone with very little experience of using anything like this in terms of immersive tech could suddenly have a relatively slick looking product in a matter of hours. So this is the front end. Obviously, this page can be accompanied by your own content as well. This is my own website, and the gallery is embedded at the top. So super, super flexible. In terms of the actual platform itself, this is the back end. And what really blew me away, really, with this was how immediate and how experimental it could be. Once you have your artwork in the inventory, you can literally arrange it in any of these rooms, and you can change the rooms really, really quickly. So if you decide you want to, you know, double up in size or triple up in size or go smaller, you can. What was an incredible feature was that you could actually change the colours of the walls as well. So, you know, I went from having a traditional white gallery space to like, actually, no, maybe this would look really nice with dark walls. And that's in the end what I ended up with. So the ability to chop and change and really be very experimental with the curation of the show, you know, and the narrative you're telling within the space and how it looks was really quite powerful compared to how long that would actually take you in real life to actually hang a physical show. So immediately the benefits were so obvious to me that I almost wondered why had I never considered doing this before. And also I could see that the, you know, art world as a whole would massively benefit from this kind of platform. Another added feature of this particular platform was the ability to have an augmented reality feature as well. So this means that when the work is uploaded, you create a repository. Somebody can log into an app, they get a marker which they download, and they can literally just stick that to their wall in their house and then use the app on their phone to view your painting in situ in their lounge room, which from an art buyer's perspective is incredible, and as an artist's perspective, that's amazing as well, because a lot of people are a bit, you know, concerned about investing in art. They're not sure how it's going to look in their house. They're not sure about the scale, if that's going to work. So for them to be able to try this out in, you know, as good a way as possible without actually having the piece physically there, again, this is a very, very powerful tool. So, you know, I did a whole bunch of research and I decided to use Kunstmatrix because it suited me. It was a nice balance between looking slick enough without being too expensive. There are other products out there which, you know, you get what you pay for, you pay more money, and it does look more sophisticated. I did come up against just my own lack of knowledge. I made a few assumptions about this particular platform. I presumed it would work with a VR headset. It took a friend to inform me that in fact it didn't, and it was basically fake 3D. So with a VR headset, you didn't actually get the three-dimensional effect you would get with true VR. So that was an interesting learning curve for me. With some of these other ones, you do actually get that feature, but it does cost quite a bit more. So again, it's you get what you pay for. But I think for my event, the level and the fidelity was enough. I mean, people seemed to really enjoy using the space and navigating around it. So that was good enough for me. So in terms of the pros of using this platform, as I discussed before, the ease and the flexibility of the setup versus an actual physical show was just remarkable. The quickness, the way you could just change your mind, rehang something in a matter of minutes was really the biggest plus for me, for sure. Allowing experimentation, you know, you can put these big super graphics on the walls with these kind of explainer posters really, really easily. You can change the wall color, which absolutely made a fundamental difference to how the show looked. Again, if to do that in the physical world, that would be a whole day of repainting the gallery plus drying time. So again, just a massive win. Another huge feature is this was highly cost effective. I mean, the platform itself, I think, was £40 for the month, versus £1,000 to hire a gallery space, or paying a gallery 50% commission on a show. So from a financial perspective, that was a huge win. A thing I noticed, which I didn't anticipate happening, was the event attracted a much broader audience range than it would have done normally. So in the end, the people that bought artwork, I know for a fact they would never have actually come to a show, either because of geography or just lifestyle choices. They just wouldn't have come. But they were the ones that bought the most artwork and spent the most money. So if I hadn't have done a virtual event, I wouldn't have made those extra sales. I can absolutely say that 100%, with 100% certainty. So that was, again, a huge win. Accessibility. So for anyone with mobility issues or mental health issues, or issues of being in a crowded space and anxiety, this format is just hugely inviting for them. And from an accessibility issue, just making a show like this accessible to so many more people, I think, is hugely valuable. The viewer has total control over their own experience. That's what I love. They can go in, each person can have a completely different experience of the space. And also, because it was all in a digital format, it was actually very easy for me to capture the event. And I did this in the format of a live broadcast on YouTube with a very good friend Reefa, who was my interviewer. And we just had a little Q&A as we wandered around the exhibition space. And I could record the whole thing and broadcast it live on YouTube, whilst the viewers could interact with me via the chat box. And now I have this on my YouTube channel as, a replay, which I can go back to at any time. So again, that's a great thing to have. Now, with pros, there are always some cons, and I wanted to be completely transparent about this process and just discuss the cons quickly as well. So as I mentioned before, I made some assumptions about the tech, which turns out that the tech was more limited than I presumed it would be. Also, the quality, it's not like a high quality render like you would expect from an architectural model or something like that. It is a little bit limited, but like I said, I felt it was enough for this experience. Next time round, I may actually invest in a higher end product, but this was a kind of experiment. So slightly limited, you get what you pay for. There is, I believe, no substitute for seeing art in the flesh. I mean, I know someone else that may be talking at this event has had experience with some high quality immersive tech capturing and scanning artwork, and I'd be so interested to see that, because for me a lot of it is about the texture and the detail and the surface reflection, which in this format certainly you don't capture it. So there is an element of being a little bit removed from the physical experience. From an event perspective, obviously there's less spontaneity than a live gallery private view, but where there's cons, there's also pros. And also, any kind of digital event is at risk of just getting lost in the noise. I think digital fatigue is a real issue, and it's a lot of weight goes on to the marketing and how you promote an event like this, so that it just doesn't get swamped. So remember, the whole the whole art industry basically had to jump on this virtual bandwagon for reasons of survival, essentially. So the art world went from basically zero virtual events, really, to that being the only format that they could get the work out there. So I just found a couple of quotes in the Financial Times. Online viewing rooms kept the art world active during a very difficult time and were almost crucial to the survival of the art industry throughout, the summer of 2020. But with that, lessons are being swiftly learnt along the way. There became so much digital fatigue. There was too much material for collectors, and it was difficult to come up with something fresh and not formulaic. The best digital offerings have been small, compact, and very specific. So that's a really interesting thought going forward, is, the care in which you have to curate your event is no less than it is in the real world. If anything, it has to be even more on point and even more considered to stand out from the crowd. It's interesting. I mean, museums and galleries have been embracing immersive tech for, good 5 years, but it wasn't until this year that it has actually been seen as something that is vital. And certain galleries have gone entirely online now, entirely virtual. A lot of art fairs are now making this a staple of their offering for next year. So it's gone from having just physical stalls to immersive online viewing rooms as an option. As an artist you can buy, and they tend to be a lot cheaper than the physical stalls as well. So it's definitely changing the art industry as a whole, which is fascinating to see how that will evolve over the next couple of years. It's had so many different effects, and we could talk about so many aspects of this without even touching on the immersive art becoming an art form in itself. I'm just looking at immersive tech as a way of delivering physical art and the different approaches I've seen. And I just love, virtual tours of physical spaces where someone has actually gone in and scanned the entire gallery space, allowing you to walk around and have a look. This is Stolen Space Urban Art Gallery in London. And it does give you the opportunity to see things in a higher resolution and explore it a little bit better than you would do in a truly virtual, flat, fake 3D in-browser experience. Another example which really tickled me was Upfest, which is a massive urban art festival that happens every year in Bristol. Got cancelled, like many other things this summer. And it basically is a whole street art festival which takes over the whole of Bedminster High Street in Bristol. So as an alternative, they created this 3D virtual render of Bedminster High Street in a Tron style, and then imposed different murals from various artists on the space. Now, this hasn't been maintained massively. Like, this event was in the summer, so it's looking a little bit empty now, but just a really nice, playful way of using immersive tech to represent a physical space which, people couldn't really go and visit at the time. So that, again, really tickled me. I thought that was a really nice touch. And I think the final thing that I discovered the other day, hacking the heist. This is brilliant. Using augmented reality. So again, using a marker to add a digital layer that you can see on your phone, which is mapped to the reality in front of you. And this is basically a property where 3 priceless works of art were stolen in the 90s, and they have basically created this augmented reality experience where you can go into this property and actually view the stolen artworks. So it's using the tech to really poignantly, weave it into the actual story of this stolen art, and in a way try and return it to its rightful place. So you could check that out. I thought that was a really nice way of using tech to tell a story. And moving forward, I mean, the thing that's really piqued my interest out of this whole experience of using this virtual platform to put on my exhibition was the augmented reality side of it. Not just so customers can try a piece of artwork in their own home, but also what it offers me as an artist as a way of embellishing my own art. physically on canvases, but also I'm really interested on how I could apply that to the street art side of my work. So that is something that I'm definitely going to be focusing on this year. And if anyone else out there is interested in that kind of thing, or collaborating, or has any ideas that they would like to discuss, I'd be all ears. That would be amazing. So yeah, from the whole experience of, through necessity, because of the pandemic, having to pivot my idea for an exhibition, discovering this virtual platform, and now being inspired to really try and incorporate it into my artistic practice moving forward, has just been like a really wonderful silver lining of, something that's been a pretty challenging time for everybody. So yeah, I remain really inspired by this whole process and excited to see where it goes. So hopefully I have piqued your interest in how you can apply immersive tech to your artistic practice. But also I've had people like art teacher friends that teach secondary school, asking about the platforms for their kids' examination shows. So the applications are so multiple. It's not just for artists, it's for students, education sector, anyone that wants to display work in an immersive way that can be exposed to as many people as possible. It transcends geographical boundaries, transcends accessibility issues, and I just think it's such a powerful platform. So yes, I remain very excited and inspired to move forward. So yeah, thank you for your time, and have a great evening.
Thank you so much for that, Mish. It's really interesting to hear from your perspective what it was like trying to get into using immersive tools, but also things like WebXR, and your experiences in finding the tools out there. And hopefully, some of our audience found that really, really useful, particularly coming from a less technical background where you want to find the tools that are out there to really use this technology properly. Now, I'd like to hand over to our next speaker, who is Sam Watts of Make Real. He's going to be talking a little bit about how they at Make Real have gone through the process of converting their existing existing VR experiences into WebXR experiences, and what that process has entailed.
Hello everyone, it's great to be back at Brighton Immersive Meetup. Going to be talking about browser-based immersive experiences today, or rather we're going to be talking about WebXR. My name's Sam Watts and I'm the Immersive Partnerships Director at Make Real. We're a local Brighton-based studio specialising in immersive content. We've worked with a number of clients and partners over the years, having delivered 100 plus projects. From everything to do with agriculture and automotive to construction, through to museums, simulation and utilities companies. I've been on a journey over these few years trying out everything XR, from AR devices and VR headsets, learning what does and doesn't work so that we can pass this knowledge on to our clients. Part of that has seen me doing a number of talks and presentations around the benefits of using immersive technologies for training, but also on the experiential in and out of home entertainment side of things as well. Funnily enough, actually in 2016, we started hosting our own web VR meetups. And we held two. We had companies like Play Canvas come down and talk for us. But unfortunately, I think the tech at the time was a little bit immature, and we soon ran out of valid content to keep the audiences engaged. So it's great to see the Brighton Immersive Meetups covering the topic now that things have matured a bit more. I'm going to be talking to you today about two of our more recent projects, our internal product, D&I Perspectives, and what we created for Legal and General, sponsors of Brighton Immersive Meetup, for their retirement planning internal tool. On to D&I Perspectives first up. Originally, we created it as an Oculus Quest app, and we designed it to be, through our sort of experience of working with enterprises, simple and easy to use as possible, with minimal interactions, but we wanted to explore the use of a mix of real-time 3D CG backgrounds and stereoscopic video actors. And then these also led into 4 animated stories based upon real world experiences of microaggressions within the workplace, created in conjunction with a large global financial institution. We're looking to explore how more traditional e-learning technologies and presentations could be delivered in a VR experience. But we decided that we needed to adapt it to other forms beyond just Oculus Quest. With coronavirus and lockdown, access to devices hasn't been as widely available. And we wanted to ensure that through a browser, people were able to access the content and still have the same experience. For this particular experience, we looked at how to offer the user the choice of just going 2D on their mobile, or using the power of WebXR and loading it into VR, so they could put it into a Google Cardboard. So if you indulge me for a minute, here's a quick video of the experience itself in VR mode.
Welcome to this diversity and inclusion experience. You're about to see the world through another person's eyes. But who are you? You'll move across the office to get to your next meeting on time. As you go, think about other people's reaction to you and whether that gives you a sense of who you are.
You're here. We've had a meeting about the Rocks project. Sorry, I know you were really keen to stay close to it, but I assumed you were working from home again, and Sandeep had some great ideas that we were all really keen to discuss. We made some exciting decisions. You're going to love the direction we're taking this in.
Meet the team. You were just playing the role of one of these people in your journey through the office. Who do you think you were?
I have a British-sounding name. It's not obvious on paper that my parents are from Ghana. I work with clients remotely a lot. On one team I was working with, we were communicating entirely on calls and via emails. But after about a month, we had a big review coming up. So someone set up a video call. I remember that there was a visible shock in the room when they saw me for the first time. They'd all been chatting away, and then the room went silent.
If you felt excluded, unfairly judged, or belittled every day when you stepped into the office, would you be able to do your best work?
So there we go. That was a quick video capture from the experience on Oculus Quest. So some of the things we had to think about when taking it to WebXR, from a design point of view, we had to think about the fact that we're going from a 6-DoF full VR experience where people can move around and have two input controllers, to having a single button, maybe on a Google Cardboard, or no buttons at all, just looking at it on a mobile. And the spatial audio that we've incorporated into the experience less effective when you're just looking at a flat phone screen. But then also, how is it going to be hosted? How is it going to be accessed? How were we going to secure access to it? This is a product of ours that we want to enable paid access to. And what will the typical user's intro and what will the user journey be that's different from the VR experience? We have to preload everything up front, so we can hide a lot of that between the option to launch the 2D or the VR version. On the performance side, we had no upfront install, unlike an app which is downloaded to the device and just plays, and you have all full control over when assets are loaded and unloaded and in memory. We had to preload everything up front because it's web and it's streaming. So large assets we need to be carefully considered. We also had a much wider range of target devices to consider. A range of mobile phones. We tried to limit down to those that we know that support Cardboard 2, but also for the 2D version, it could have less capable phones being used. As this was potentially going out to end customers, we didn't have any control over that. So much like normal web design, you have to take all of these things into consideration. And then, based upon time and development, we created a tier of quality settings depending upon what the device was that we were detecting. And then, the logic to basically determine how those tiers are loaded based upon what class of device, performance metrics we have, etc. For the video, we had do quite a lot of work for the stereoscopic actors who were captured. Stereoscopy doesn't really work when you're looking at a mobile phone. It doesn't really work with 3 DOF headsets because you don't get that sense of motion that isn't tracked. So it's kind of an effect that is lost, but it's a quick performance gain because then we can drop it down to a monoscopic version. And doing a lot of things real time out of the question in terms of the mobile chipsets, although we can do it with Quest, that's a highly optimized environment. So we had to look at baking a lot of the lighting in to give that same sense of quality and feel without the performance overheads. And then for lower end devices, we looked at just capturing 360 video versions or 180 video versions to reduce that performance requirement even lower than just playing back a 360 video essentially. The other development considerations, there's not many tools available for creating WebXR. Things that we're taking for granted with Unity, like animation timelines, curve editors, being able to preload and unload assets. All of this goes out the window when you're developing for WebXR. And to a degree as well, our own unfamiliarity. We're so used to developing Unity. WebXR is a new emerging technology, so it's something we're still getting to grips with as well. Google was our friend. And then we had to determine, what is that best trade-off between what do we export and tweak? What do we rebuild from scratch? What do we need to create or recreate to get that same sense of experience and same level of quality that we expect for the amount of effort? What is that trade-off? Then because we were creating this 2D VR approach, we wanted to look at making sure that the 2D version didn't lose anything that the VR version offered. So we had to look at moving cameras and force movement, things you wouldn't do in VR, but it's fine to do on a mobile phone, to give that sense of being within the space, that first person view, that sense of depth of the content. When people couldn't fully look around, how do we just carry on making sure that little phone screen or tablet screen or browser screen is as interesting as having that full 360-degree version? Looking at the Legal and General Retirement Planning Act now, LNG found that many of its members felt disconnected from their future selves, so they put off saving adequately due to an inability to connect with their future. Aiming to combat this, LNG partnered with us at MakeReal to create an emotive VR experience that serves a dual purpose. On the one hand, it raises awareness of LNG's commitment to responsible investing. On the other, it should provide its members with greater insight into the long-term impacts of their current financial decisions and encourage action now. We initially produced this 360 video branching experience to raise awareness of retirement planning options originally deployed on Oculus Go. Due to COVID-19 and the launch of LG's new membership app, LG decided to implement the VR pension experience onto UNU. They were optimized so there were 5K on Oculus Go, and depending upon the user choices, there'll be 3 outcomes. We tried the Unity WebXR plugins, but unfortunately this wasn't supported, so we had to go down to a much more base level of hand coding the experience. So feedback from the developers who took that conversion process on board. The video playback on iOS is tricky. You have to preload all your assets. It takes a lot longer on iOS than it does on Android. And iOS as well, you have to ensure that you have to trick the user into tapping the screen. So we had to add a lot of extra screens and buttons and user interface elements as part of the experience so that the video would actually start playing. And because everything's all loaded, we have to make sure all the volume levels are correct and sometimes mute certain videos so that they're not all overlapping over one another. Much like the other one, everything has to be loaded and preloaded and buffered to make sure they play. The video data is being streamed or downloaded from a web server. It's not running off a stored native app. And every browser is slightly different. So we had to create multiple versions for multiple browsers, much like you do with typical web dev, to keep everything smooth, consistent quality, and high performing across a variety of browsers supported. Then we had multi-platform side of things. It's iOS and Android, Chrome, Safari. It all has to be dealt with in the same build. So like web development, you have to keep all those quirks within that one code base and pull them up accordingly depending upon what browser is detected. We wanted to have as much dynamic and responsive code as possible so that despite those slight differences, every browser, every user got the same experience. This is from our developers, but iOS is the new IE. Generally, everything works fine straight away on Android, but with iOS, there always seems to be a quirk or a problem or something to overcome. However, they do quote that Safari seems to be getting worse, but for iOS especially, don't just assume, test and triple test again. To note, though, the new iOS 14.3 updates introduces a number of WebXR specific enhancements that enables a lot of the features to be platform wide rather than just only for Safari. Getting a bit more technical here, in terms of textures, everything you do in WebGL, it must be a power of two. Unity can make development very easy for a lot of people starting out, but everything has to be in a power of two, but Unity will adapt and convert these for you. Sometimes they don't make very good texture atlases, but developers often kind of forget and get a little bit lazy. But with WebGL, WebXR development, you're hard hand coding and you have to make sure everything is spot on and perfect and precise. But you also have a lot more limits to work around. Further performance issues are around texture sizes. You can't just have huge textures for WebXR. You've got to be careful about things like color mode and the space, all the various settings that make that sort of end look and feel different from a mobile device compared to a VR or a PC, and can even be different across actual devices and browsers. Transparency is much more limited. It does work in simple scenarios, and it is getting better, but there's a lot of issues in terms of artifacts, and you just make sure you've got clean masks and clean images to start with. And performance is always going to be slower running through the browser, but it's getting better. Our developers prefer the Babylon JS stuff, get that maximum performance through hand-coded optimization. Finally, just some notes from the devs. I'll leave this screen up for a while for capturing, but Babylon JS, A-Frame, and Three.js are the main tool sets used for creating WebXR. If you need WebGL and there's no VRXR for straightforward development, Babylon JS is recommended. A-Frame is great for XR, and A-Frame's built on Three.js. Which one you choose comes down to your coding capabilities and knowledge of XR development and the particular use case that you want. So I hope some of those have been useful for you thinking about developing WebXR. Capabilities are definitely getting better every day, and there's a lot more friendly tool sets coming out now, but it's certainly not as friendly as Unity or Unreal development for XR. There's a lot more coding, there's a lot more hard work and effort to put into it. But the upshot is that you've got platform agnostic content, and it runs in a browser. You don't need to have a store to distribute it. You can host it on a web server, and it's a lot easier to deploy at scale so that many people can access it. So thank you for letting us talk about these experiences. I hope it's been useful and insightful.
Thank you, Sam, once again for another excellent talk at one of our meetups. It's so nice to have such a key player in the immersive, certainly in the business immersive scene, being available and always so keen to talk at our events. So thank you, Sam, for coming along and sharing what you've been working on there. Last but by no means least, we're going to be joined now by Peter Nierabitz, who is going to be explaining about some of the projects that he's worked on using the WebXR toolkits, and more specifically about using Mozilla Hubs, which is the platform, as I say, that many people are experiencing this meetup in at the moment. So if after Peter's talk you would like to have a go and like to join us, the links are available to join us in Mozilla Hubs, and maybe have some networking after the meetup as well. So see you there.
Hi, Ab. Let's start maybe with me introducing myself. My name is Piotr Nierobisz, and I'm a creative director of Munching Square Limited. Munching Square Limited is a creative technology studio where we deliver feasible creative tech solution for your custom problems. So essentially we can turn your ideas into reality, and all type of reality, like physical reality, virtual, augmented, or mixed. We offer mostly interactive development. again for all sorts of platforms like mobile, desktop, spatial, web-based. We are happy to provide the technology consultancy at the initial stage of the project where you need to make a decision what type of technology you need. We are happy to provide as well the visuals for print, screen-based media and spatial experiences. We have experience with digital fabrication, so we fabricate the custom bespoke electronics as well, and we can install your experience on site. So I think that's more or less it regarding to the introduction. So I had a chance recently to work on a Mozilla Hubs project for Road Safety Authority in Ireland, together with Solarflare Studio and BBDO. Why we chosen the Mozilla Hubs as a platform? It's mostly because this is the only platform on the market which allows you to fully control your immersive environment. So you can in fact own it, and you don't need to be dependent on the owner of the platform. I think this is very important, and most of the other solutions on the market don't allow you to do that. The Road Safety Authority, or RSA, is a state agency formed by the Irish government to promote road safety within the Republic of Ireland. Big part of their activity is to conduct lessons in schools where they teach kids how to behave on the road. The COVID-19 pandemic has forced society to make significant lifestyle adjustments. When the schools reopened after lockdown, classrooms were very different to how they were in March this year, with teachers and children alike adjusting to the new normal. For RSA, this means their educational focus had to shift gear from in-school to at home, with learning resources distributed online. To solve this problem, we designed Core RSA VR Hub. It is a virtual immersive environment that students can access through a website browser online, from desktop device, mobile or via VR headset, and learn about road safety in a fun and engaging way. Once the student enters the room, he is guided around virtual space by RSA presenter, stopping at key areas to watch the video or listen to the presentation. Areas can be opened and locked off by the moderator to ensure the children stay focused on the lesson in hand. Alternatively, the space can be open to encourage children to explore the virtual world and discover learning materials. For security purposes, the space can be moderated by official RSA instructors or teachers. Hub consists so far of 5 interactive rooms with 2 more upcoming. Each room is built around a particular topic and incorporates recognizable RSA character or theme.
Seatbelt?
On your seatbelt.
It's my job. Put on your seatbelt. Great, shall we go? Put on your seatbelt.
But she hasn't got a lift, so I said we'd swing by and collect her. You're alright to drive, aren't you?
An integral part of Hub is a dashboard where admin can customize the presentation content or video and cater it for particular audience group. Besides of crafting lesson content, this allows to open and close the rooms on demand, which saves the server cost. Our main challenges working with custom Mozilla Hubs instance were related to the 3D design and optimization. Since Mozilla Hubs rendering engine has its own content editor, you need to create assets in certain way. Rendering process works differently on mobile and on desktop, and it was important to support both platforms, so we spent a lot of time testing and making sure environments works as expected. The project is going live soon, so I hope you enjoyed this short presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And with that, that is actually everything that we have planned for you tonight, as far as talks are concerned anyway. So thank you very much to Mish, Peter and Sam for their really insightful talks. Really, I think the goal was to try and cover as many different areas and different bases of this as possible. So we're looking at developers as well as creatives embracing immersive web platforms. So thank you ever so much for coming along. Before we go, I just wanted to take a moment just to remind people watching on YouTube that there is still opportunities to come and join us in Mozilla Hubs. Hopefully my colleague will be able to post a link in the YouTube live chat, but if not, check on your Eventbrite email and you should have a link to join Mozilla Hubs as well. So fingers crossed, if you can get into Mozilla, it'll be great to see you there, and we'll be chatting around for a little bit afterwards. But if not, we will hopefully catch you at our next event. So thank you ever so much for coming and joining us. Bye now.